Hey, it's 9 o'clock. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Speech and Debate webinar, part of the Tax Academics Championships 2020. My name is John Skees. I am the Director of Media at TAPS. I'm joined today by Robert Huckabee, who is our Athletic Director and Director of Compliance, Brian Bunselmeyer, who's the TAPS Executive Director, and Vina Williams, who is the Director of Fine Arts. As we move through today's presentation, if you have any questions, go ahead and use the questions box that's on the GoToWebinar control panel. We're going to keep an eye on that as we go through, and we'll answer the ones that we can as we go, but we will have a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. Also, a reminder, this entire webinar is being recorded, and it will be made available to registered attendees. You'll get an email tomorrow with a link to our video library in GoToWebinar. We're also going to put a recording on YouTube. And that'll be publicly available, and you'll find the links for that on the Fine Arts page on our website. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Brian real quick, and we'll get started.
We definitely want to thank each of you for joining us today, and for those that will be joining us in the future on the YouTube channel as we continue to push this information forward. Our hope is that this series of webinars will replace the January meetings, if you've been in TAPS for a while, that we used to have down in Waco, where our goal is to provide additional information and also provide that archive opportunity for you to go back and check, or if other people have questions, or by the time we get to state, it just gives a great opportunity, this continuing education for you to go forward. So with that said, Robert is here. He's here to answer any eligibility questions. It may be offline or it may be on as we go forward, and we're going to turn it over to Vina, our Fine Art Director. Vina, the course is yours.
Good morning, speech and debate coaches. I'll introduce myself. I'm Vina Williams, the Director of Fine Arts for TAPS. In order for us to be most effective, it's important for you all to know with whom to communicate and how with our office. John, if you'll slide to the next slide. The best way to reach us is through our contact link on the website or through direct email to info@taps.biz. These email tickets are accessible by all of our staff and guarantees you get the right person to respond to your inquiries. Also, equally important is for us to know all of you. Your school needs to designate a fine arts director who is our first point of contact from our office to your school. We also need to know your speech and debate coaches. You will designate these roles in our online systems, which we will cover shortly. Next. Our mission commits to building leadership, fellowship, fair play, and sportsmanship of students by providing wholesome competition for young men and women. About 130 of our member schools come together to participate in our academic championship event each year. We're looking forward to another exciting experience for you and your students in March. So where do we start? Next. Today's webinar, we'll get you headed in the right direction and set you up for a successful season. We'll discuss where to get information, how to prepare yourself, how to prepare your students, and we'll talk about meet expectations and cover some common situations. First, we'll go through our websites. We have 3 different websites that give or receives information. The first one is taps.biz. Taps.biz is our homepage. It has main links at the top, recent news posts on the right, and if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see our calendar. Feel free to explore all the links, but today we're going to look closer at the fine arts and the academic and speech specific links. Click the fine arts link on the main page and it'll take you to our fine arts overview page. Speech and debate falls under our academic meet. So sometimes you'll hear us talk about the academic meet as a whole meet, including speech, debate, and academic testing. Most meet information will be listed on the academics page regarding meet info and logistics. However, there are a couple quick links here on the Fine Arts homepage for speech and debate, which will take you directly to some speech and debate specific information. Below the chart is a list of fine arts event fees for the academic championship, as well as archive results, honors, and certificates. So be sure to scroll down on all the web pages to see all the content. Let's get started with the academics links page. Here you'll find our important dates and deadlines, links to resources such as study materials, and on the right, again, archives of our news blast emails. As resources become available, they will be added here. There's also a red menu bar that gives us information we need for the Academics and Speech Championship. The rules link will take you to our bylaws. When you click the rules from the academic page, just take a moment to let it load and the document will jump straight to the academic rules. If you start scrolling before it's completely loaded, you'll override the jump to feature and you'll have to scroll a very long time to get to past all the athletic stuff to the academics and speech sections. The frequently asked questions link will be updated throughout the season as we receive questions and with answers. The championship info link will have the information on location, schedules, required forms, and things like that. Honors is where we'll post our results. The hotels link is where you can get book your hotel through our partner Redpin. And right now we'll just talk about preparation and meet logistics. So let's go on to our next website that we have. This is a new website for this year. It's Rank 1, another site you'll have to become very familiar with. It's our new system for student eligibility and coach compliance. It's also our main way to contact you. You will need to make sure you are set in Rank 1 with your athletic director or your fine arts director. Your faculty profile will need to be complete with scope compliance. If you're exempt from the scope for attending the June convention, you'll still need to complete the profile and the professional acknowledgement of rules. Your students will also need profiles established in Rank 1 so that eligibility can be determined. Your students will be listed on the academics roster for easy access to the eligibility list. Now, this registration with the students may be really short for some, and others it might take longer if they're a transfer or international student or have another unique situation. So please don't wait to start this eligibility process the day before entries are due. Parents do have to log in and complete the account profile. Again, Rank 1 is our main outlet for contacting you, so it is imperative that your contact information is included and up to date. This year, we will continue to use Tapster.com for our entry submission and our meet management. You still will need your profile set up in Tapster, but this is where we'll put all the entries on the entries link, and which will generate all the ballots and things that we need for the event. So how do you prepare for this event? Preparing yourself is as important as preparing your students. Be sure to print the academic coaches checklist on the website and complete the tasks listed. It will help guide you through the whole season. So knowing the rules, before learning the selection for your kids, if they know the rules before they get their selection, it is super helpful. Once the parts are learned, it's really hard to undo something they've already practiced for weeks. There are general rules in our bylaws, which include selection requirements, content standards, documentation, and presentation. There are also rules for individual categories regarding time limits, expectations, and source requirements. However, don't just skip to those individual categories. Remember to go over the general rules, which includes the information of all categories and may not necessarily be restated in the specific category section. Knowing the rules is not just for you and not just for your students. The judges that we get will also need to know the rules, the timers, your speakers, and all people that are involved in the event. At the event, we need coaches to volunteer to judge and students to volunteer for timing. So it's important that those judges and timers know the rules. The NFHS and the National Speech and Debate Association created an adjudication training module that we have available on our website. We're asking all speech coaches and judges to complete that training prior to the state meet. I'll have more information about that later. TAPS will create a timer training module for students and timers to complete prior to the state meet, and we'll also create a module for creating your entries in Tapster. Right now, we'll just look at our documentation process and other things to prepare yourself. Speech coaches must bring a speech documentation binder at registration in order for their students to compete. The binder includes an inventory list that will be printed from the Tapster Meet section, certification sheets with signatures, documentation of publisher and book type, and selections with cuttings marked. The speech notebook slides link will be available with the specific instructions on preparing that notebook. The meet logistics is what's going to help you wrap your mind around how things are happening. The official schedule will be posted later today on the TAPS Academics page. But in order to help Tuesday's speech and academics go smoothly, we're asking you to turn your speech notebook in on Monday if you're there early after 1 p.m. for registration. Looking at the schedule, we just have Monday, we will have LD debate like we have had in the past few years. This year, we'll be moving persuasive speaking prelims and the semis to the debate day. Your students will be able to participate in both. Tuesday, we'll start the morning with persuasive finals and then the remaining speech prelims. Wednesday, we'll follow through with the speech semis and the finals. Substitutions is always something that comes up I'm sorry, let me go back. I skipped a slide. Cross-entering, no speech events conflict with other speech events. Students may participate both persuasive speaking and LD debate. No prelim speech round is in conflict with another speech category. For finals day, if a student is in multiple final rounds, speaking order will be adjusted to accommodate them. Students may not cross-enter a speech event with an academic test. So when you're looking at the schedule, if a speech event is kind of close to an academic test, you'll need to make the student choose which one they'll do. If a student advances to semis or finals for speech for the third day and was registered for an academic test scheduled for the same time, they must participate in the speech round. You may substitute for the academic test. Substitutions may only be made for the same category of entries. The entry deadline is March 16th, and any changes after that date can be made at registration. All entries registered on March 17th will be responsible for the fees charged, so make sure you know what you're registering at that deadline. We did push the deadline a little closer to the event, so you do have more time to prepare for that. This year, there's a meet inventory list, which is required for your on-site substitutions. You'll print that list from Tapster and just mark out the student names and selections and replace it with the new information. Okay, we're going to go over some common situations that we have. One thing, speech coaches forget to bring the binder or documentation is incorrect or incomplete. The solution, bring your binder. Look over the binder documentation slides and make sure that it's prepared ahead of time. Another common situation is works being unpublished or proof of publication is not demonstrated. Just make sure that you have the ISBN number with your documentation and you'll be good to go. The piece is entered in the wrong category. This one's a little tricky sometimes. You might have a poem that got entered in prose or prose that was entered in poetry. If you have a question about that, just send a quick email to info@taps.biz and we'll take a look at it. Just include the selection and the documentation of where you got the piece and we'll be able to get back with you with a definite answer. Another situation is poetry or prose is memorized instead of in a binder. Practice reading with the binder, even if it is memorized. Another situation is performances over or under time limits. This is a DQ, so make sure your kids practice with time cards, cut or add to ensure that the time is correct. Other reasons why some pieces may not advance to the next round is inappropriate content. Make sure you cut the content. We do have some off-limit topics in our bylaws, so just cut that content or send in questions if you're unsure. Some categories require cuttings to be from a single source, so make sure you know the rules. Another one that some kids end up just saying, sometimes accidentally, is using the Lord's name in vain or using profanity in any form. Just make sure you cut the references prior to the student learning the piece so that it doesn't accidentally come out. And then we also sometimes have issues with not having introductions or an illegal introduction. We will have another slides available to review the introduction requirements. LD debate this year will run like it did last year on Monday. The schedule, like I said, will be posted later today. The main thing for debate is that you are responsible for providing judges or paying a fee. If you have one student performing, you need to provide one judge. If you have two students debating, you will can also just provide that one judge. If you have 3 debaters, you need 2 judges. You may enter a judge name when you register, or you may choose to pay $150 for us to hire a judge to cover your commitment. If you're interested in trying debate this year, let me know. Send in, but if you don't know what to do, we have our debate committee. They are great with helping new schools get started with debate. Just a fun fact, 2 years ago, we had 2,891 academic entries, and last year we jumped to 3,509. That is great progress, and it is great to see your programs grow as well. We do have workshops and sessions for you, so I want you to go ahead and mark your calendars now for the 2020 convention, June 10th and 11th at the Waco Convention Center. We will have session topics available that will be specific to theater, speech, debate, and academics. If you're interested in leading a workshop for this summer, let us know via info@taps.biz, and I'll talk to you about presentations. Okay, I kind of went fast, but I wanted to make sure you had time to ask questions. So if you have any questions, we will take questions now. You can type those in, or I guess that's the only way you can do it right now. Type in a question and we'll see what we can do to answer it.
Just use that questions box that's on the GoToWebinar control panel off to the side. I don't see any questions right now. You can also use the chat box if you want. I don't see any attendees with their hands raised or any questions at all.
Vina, I'll go ahead and throw out one question. Would you just reiterate the number of entries in the speech categories and LD debate? How many entries are each school allowed?
3. Each category is 3 entries.
I know that was a change kind of last year and it caught people off guard. So 3 entries per category. That's including LD debate, or that is including LD debate?
LD debate is 3, prose 3, poetry 3, everything is 3.
Okay. I wanted to give you kind of a TAPS perspective while folks are thinking about questions. I know that several folks have come to us about the calendar. I understand that the calendar for both 2020 and 2021 is based really on 3 things. It's spring breaks take away a lot in March, the positioning of Easter, and then facility availability. So when you go to both this year's calendar and if you continue out on the homepage, go to calendar and continue to next year, those dates are already set as well. The facility is a great host for us, but they are more and more in demand, so we have fewer and fewer options of when we set the dates. So we do our best to push it back, but just kind of wanted to let that be known. I want to reiterate a couple of things. Vina mentioned that judges, the NFHS course is there for, and we're highly encouraging those that you're going to bring as judges to do that. Your timers, we will have a webinar session, and we will also record that, of course, for future use for our timers. The entry process and developing your binder will both be provided in additional training materials on our YouTube channel and Off the Taps website. One of the things that comes up each year, and I've done this for 23 years, we need judges, the LD debate, the speech judges, we need your help. And to be honest with you, we can't do it without you. So one of the questions that's come up is, do we have to pay for judges for the speech event? There is no opt-out on paying for the speech event. We do need you to have folks there when you can. And Vina, the question is, how many judges should you plan to bring to cover your speech events? So we used to have kind of a chart. How many judges, if you're bringing 3 kids, are we expecting 1? Would you go ahead and expound on that?
For every 4 entries, you should have 1 judge. And the way that you really should look at that, if you've got students competing in every category throughout the entire day, you really do need to have a judge in every category. The max that we needed last year, we had 27 rooms going on at one time last year. And 27, if you're wanting to panel that, it was 81 judges necessary to panel that section. And so 81 is a lot. We only have about 110 schools even in attendance. So that is everybody having a judge at every event. So it's really important that you bring more than just one person, or that person is available for every session. We did stretch out the schedule a little bit this year so that we can make sure that one round is completely done so that those judges can judge the next round. And I think that will help out with having judges available for the next session so that they can go back to back.
Vina, a lot of folks have done this before. Explain the difference between going with a solo critic judge and a panel and why that's so important.
So when you have just, we have 25 rooms, and if we only have 25 judges show up, that means every room gets 1 judge. When you have 8 students performing in that room and there's only 1 judge in there, it's up to that 1 judge to decide who gets to go on to the prelims the next round. When you have 3 judges, it takes the sum of those 3 judges. So one judge might just love a comedy and just think they were so moved by the hysteria, and then another performance might be very sad and just heart-wrenching, and someone else might think it's the greatest thing ever. And so it's important that we try to panel all the events so that the personalities of the students can come out and maybe tug on the heartstrings or really move that other judge. But it does give opportunities for your students to have more than just one person's opinion.
Again, it just goes back to the desire to have as many judges as possible sign up, especially for those final rounds. Though that becomes hugely important to decide that championship between those final 8 or 9 students. Another question that has come up is, when will the conflict schedule be posted? The academic speech schedule will be posted by end of business today. That's our plan. We're trying to get it all where we've got our desires, we've got our plans, we've got our rooms. We're going to give it one last check. So by close of business today, 5 o'clock, that should be posted on both the academic and the speech contest. We had a question about rank 1 and profile, so I'm going to let Robert talk about that just a little bit here.
Yes, good morning. So what we need new this year, as Vina mentioned earlier, is Rank 1 is our database now for all of our student information and all of our coaches. So if you are a fine arts director, if you are a speech or a debate coach, or if you are connected with art, academic, speech in any form or fashion, you need a profile. You need to be in Rank 1. So what you'll need to do is go into Rank 1. You'll need to be designated as that particular title, and then you'll need to fill out a profile. And once you do that, you'll be able to log in, and you'll have a page that will include all the information you need and all the requirements you have to complete.
And Robert, if I'm not mistaken, when we started Rank 1, we had to designate one person at each school. So the athletic director, as the athletics were beginning in August during the rollout. So is that correct? The athletic director has the ability to enter anyone new, and then that will be given once a fine art director, they'll have that. Talk to that just a sec.
Yes, if you have never heard of Rank 1, then reach out to the athletic director at your school. That's where the process began at the beginning of the year last fall. So that person has the ability to add you in and make sure all the correct titles are noted there so that all your roles are in there. If you're in rank 1, then you will begin receiving all the information, all the email pushes we send, and you'll be in the loop on all the information that you need that will be coming directly from the TAPS office.
Another question, how early can you drop off those speech binders on LD Debate Day? If you're there for LD Debate, of course, once you get your registration processed for LD Debate, please come on over. You can drop off your binders at that time, and we'll be there all day on Monday and Tuesday. If you're not coming Monday, we'll be there Tuesday for you to drop off those binders as well. So binders can be dropped off at any time. So I think one of the questions, and I'll let Vina speak to it, what are the requirements to be a judge? So Vina, if you'll speak to that for us.
Well, I've heard that if you can breathe, you can be a judge, but we do want the judges to be familiar with the process and the entries and what's expected of the students. So the judges will need to know the rules. I did complete, or almost complete, about 85% complete with the NFHS and the National Debate and Speech Association's judging module that's on the NFHS website and as cross-posted on our website. And it is very informative. It talks about, now it does talk about some events that we do not have at our event, but overall, it does a great job with telling you exactly what to expect. It gives examples of different entry types, and it even shows you adjudication forms that are filled out by qualified judges that have been doing it for many years. So we do think that your teachers, you as a coach, other teacher chaperones, sometimes parents that have been to these meets throughout the year, they have seen their kids perform and other students perform, and they go to multiple meets throughout the year. They also would be qualified to judge. But like I said, with that judging training, it's super helpful for those that are interested in judging to view that so that they can know exactly what to expect in the room.
Vina, when they first published that course and I had conversations with the National Federation, they saw it as coach training as well. I think if coaches would do that and look through that, they might have a little better idea of where we're headed. I will say the breathing part comes if you've got 25 rooms that you need to fill and we only have 18 judges, the criteria for judging, I'll be honest, goes down quite a bit. So we really need the coaches and the schools to help us out. If you're bringing extra people, make sure they're qualified. We have had previous TAP students who are in college at Baylor or who are in college at UT or wherever come judge. That's been a great resource for us. They've gone through the process and they understand a little bit. Make sure when you fill it out that they know the requirements that they have. There was a question again about rank 1. We're going to let Robert take that one.
Yes, we have a question about the requirements for rank 1. Obviously, for all of our students participating in athletics, as well as our fine arts students who participate in one-act play, cheer, and dance, they are required to have physicals. If you are only in the art, academic, and speech competitions and they haven't done anything else all year, they are not required to have a physical completed and uploaded in rank 1 as a part of their eligibility. So in answer to the question, if you have students who are just in academic, speech, art, then you do not have to complete a physical as a part of that eligibility process in rank 1.
As we move forward and get a little closer at the end of next month, early March, we'll have another webinar and seminar situation where we'll discuss the entries and we'll discuss making sure your students are in rank 1, who is eligible and how that shows up, the red and green and whatever. Vina, I think that I've got all the things that I had on my piece of paper. I do want to reiterate that we will be having the workshops at the June convention. If you want to present or if you have an idea for a presentation, please get with Vina and let her know that. Very important that we are ready to rock and roll. Question was asked, Vina, about separate binders for LD, debate, and speech. Do you see that as 2 binders or 1?
You know, I think we've done it both ways. Usually you're done with LD already the first day, but if you'd like to go ahead and separate that, that is okay. But if it is all combined in one, then that's fine because you'll be done with it from the first day to the second day.
So as a reminder, if you signed up for academics on your contract, then you are automatically signed up for speech and debate as well. And if you've not signed up for academics on your contract, we do have a form, but just drop us a line at info at taps.biz, B-I-Z, with that interest, info at taps.biz, or give the TAPS office a call, 254-947-9268, 254-947-9268, and we'll walk you through how to do that. The judging rubrics will be posted, if they're not already, on the speech website. And we'll make sure that's all completed by the end of the day so you have an idea of what's going on. And you can prepare your students accordingly. Vina, I think that's all we've got from here. What do you have from your end?
I think that's all. I really do want to stress the need for judges, but then also just the need for the teachers to be aware of all the rules and the small intricacies of each of the individual categories. Just be mindful when you're reading the rules to be looking for those things where it says must have a binder or must not be memorized, or things like that, where each of the categories might have something specific. Also be aware of the time limits and things like that. So it would be helpful if your students also were able to read those rules, so that the responsibility is also on them to understand them and then to make sure that they're in compliance as well.
We had a couple.
We will try to get some frequently asked questions put up. So as we get these questions and as people are confused about this versus that, we'll go ahead and put those on the frequently asked questions page. So visit that page often throughout the season because we will be updating it as questions come in.
Okay, we did have a couple of more questions here, and I'm going to let Robert answer the rank 1 question, then I'll answer the other 2.
We had another question about rank 1. Is there a way to have a student complete their own rank 1 profile, or does it have to be done by the parent? The answer is it does have to be done by the parent. When the parent logs in, once your student is in rank 1, they should already be in rank 1 because all of your students in your school should have already been entered. But if they're not, they need to be entered in rank 1. Once that happens, the parents will then have the ability to log in to rank 1 and complete the profile. The reason the parent needs to complete the profile versus the student is because they'll answer 4 or 5 questions about their student, and then they will and the student will sign an acknowledgement of rules that is very helpful, very beneficial for them and for us to make sure that they've been exposed to all the rules of our organization regarding eligibility, that they understand those, and that they agree to follow those. So if you would please make sure that if this is new for you, feel free at any time to reach out to our office, info@taps.biz. If you're trying to get help from somebody at your school and you don't know who that person is, or you feel like that they're not answering your questions, or they don't know the process, that's perfectly fine. It's new for everyone. Just reach out to our office and we'll be glad to help walk you through that process.
So rank 1 is new to everybody. The athletic sides have walked through it, 1-act play. We're going to get there with music, and academics and art will get there. Another question that was asked is there a holding area? As a reminder, this year robotics will be on Monday. That will be in the Chisholm Hall if you've been at the Waco Convention Center previously. And then art will be day 2 and day 3. So the Chisholm Hall is not going to be available for holding, and Brazos will not be available for holding rooms until after Persuasive is done. And even at that time, if we need the rooms, we would have to split it. So plan on being upstairs or downstairs in the lobby areas. If it's pretty outside, and of course we always pray for good weather during this contest, feel free to sit outside on the lawn or where it may be. We will do our very best to have as many areas as possible open. But again, it's a large competition over 3 days. We will do our best to have open areas for you. From what I'm seeing, that pretty well gets us through the questions that we've had. I'm going to turn it over to John to finish this up for this year's webinar.
Okay, if you have any more questions that we didn't get to today, feel free to send those to info@taps.biz or to call us up at the office. I would say if your academic teams or your speech and debate teams or your parents are looking for a way to get information about the meet, especially as we get closer to it, a good resource is our Twitter account, and that's TAPS Academics. You can find the list on our website or just search for TAPS Academics. We're going to be putting hotel information, news and updates, all kinds of anything real time that we need to disseminate to the attendees at the meet or spectators or anything like that or coaches. We're going to put that there too. So that's a good resource for you. With that, I think we're done for the day. Just a reminder, this recording will be emailed to you on the following day by GoToWebinar. We're also going to put a version on YouTube, and that should be available by this afternoon. Thank you so much for attending. You folks have a good day.